This game is my new favourite survival game of 2023, so far at least. Above Snakes is a survival RPG game made by Squareglade Games. First, I should clarify that I was sent this game for free by the devs, which was very nice of them because I didn't even know this game existed until they emailed me about it. But this video is not sponsored, so all my comments come straight from me and are no way encouraged or reviewed by the developers. I just want to say that for absolute transparency. So, what is Above Snakes and why am I even talking about it? Above Snakes is a survival game where you take control of this lady, Ayana. In this world, you spawn into a tutorial where the game will give you the usual spiel about collecting the basics of every survival game, at which point you may immediately notice that we're looking at Ayana from an angle and that she appears to live on a slice of delicious earth lasagna. That is because Above Snakes has one of the most interesting mechanics I've seen in a survival game in a while, and that is called the tile system. You see, rather than building a pre-made map or using random generation, the player chooses how to construct the world Above Snakes themselves out of tiles. You can research new types of tiles at the cartography table, and as you do various actions, you'll earn the ability to place down that tile. And these tiles will all have resources, enemies, animals, all that kind of thing that correspond with the, I guess you would call it, biome. And the tile system is also built into the game's story and quests, featuring unique tiles that you research and place, or as the game likes to call it, finding them. And then they become interactable with various NPCs and missions. I really like the tile system. It's a really interesting way of doing exploration that stops the player having to either use third-party softwares to look through their world, or, you know, searching around their world for like 10 hours. We've all played a survival game where we said we weren't going to use the third-party softwares, and about an hour and a half into exploring looking for something, you just use the internet because why waste your time? Above Snakes doesn't have that problem because you build the world. But that doesn't mean it's easy. Let me tell you, my first world was a mess. I really did have to rely on the fast travel system to get around the scuffed nightmare world I had created, which was made extra difficult because I didn't realise you could build your own fast travel point, meaning I ran to one fast travel point to fast travel to another one. A lot of wasted time there. But all of this has definitely incentivized me to play it again and do it properly. Now, while I want to go back and make my world efficient, you can go in and make whatever kind of fantastical world you want, customizing it as much as you like. If you want to have huge deserts, you can build those. It'll take some time, of course, because you earn the ability to place tiles by doing actions in the game. If that's something you want to do over the course of like 100 hours, you can make a huge world exactly as you like it in Above Snakes. So it really does cater to people who want to be creative and slow, as well as people who just really like to push efficiency in survival games. Enough about the tile system though, let's get into the other mechanics of the game. First up, you've got your basic survival. You of course have your food and water in every survival game, but you've also got sanity and fatigue. When any of those bars hit 0, you'll get some kind of adverse effects. For example, you can't sprint if you're fully fatigued. You'll need to either drink some kind of tea or coffee or sleep. Or if you go insane, you'll be unable to read any of the quests or know what's in each slot of your hotbar until you get some sleep. And of course, you've got health and stamina. You eat food, you drink water, you sleep through the nights, and you try and stay warm and cool. So naturally, the game features plenty of mechanics to help you fulfill your basic needs. You can forage bushes for food, you can hunt various kinds of animals, you can fish at docks, lakes, ice hole thingies, and ponds, and you can make your own farm plots and grow all sorts of different kinds of ingredients for cooking, and those ingredients can be combined in a lot of different ways to make foods, teas, medicinal herbs, and unholy combinations of random things you found that day. Can I interest you in a nice hearty bowl of fish, bones, and these weird mushrooms I found on the floor? As you would expect, there's also plenty of crafting in the game. You've got the classic workbench, the fletching table, the furnace, the anvil, the cartography table I mentioned earlier, gunsmithing table, and the tannery, as well as plenty of items that you can make in your hands. I found this crafting system to be a nice balance. It wasn't overwhelming with all the different stuff, but it had reasonable amounts of things to craft throughout the game so that it didn't feel shallow. It definitely has hundreds of different items you can craft and craft with. It feels kind of similar to Valheim in that regard, but without the really slow grind. It's all all pretty reasonable, with some of the metal items requiring a lot of running back and forth with ores, but the game does have an automatic mining system later in the game where you can feed some local miners some muffins and tarts, and they'll return your gift in the form of various materials. They really love winterberry tarts, I don't know what to tell you. There is of course a building system which you would expect in pretty much any survival game. You can build whatever kind of log or stone cabin you would want in a survival game. It's not groundbreaking, but it is fun enough if you're into base building. I'm not particularly, so I just built a cabin with enough stuff to unlock the workbench perks. The workbench perks are a mechanic which encourages you to actually live in a house with possessions, rather than just a 2x2 cube with a roof. As the more items you place, either to make your house bigger or to decorate it with more furniture, you'll unlock one of 3 pretty valuable survival aiding perks, which will vary at each of the 6 tiers, which will vary from giving you more damage or health to giving you things like more efficient ore refining, which will give you twice as much ingots for your ore. It's usually worth the effort it takes to get that next workbench level, and I really like that because it encourages you to engage with the building system, but it doesn't force it down your throat. One thing I really liked about Above Snakes is that I only had to Google 2 things in my entire playthrough, which was because I missed the letter that spawns at the Prairie Trader, and as such I was stuck for like an hour wondering how to get clay. If you're stuck there, talk to the clerk inside the trader and then ask him some questions. A note will spawn outside on this crate and that will give you the next quest. And I got stuck a little bit later in the game on a quest I won't spoil, but I forgot the names of a couple of NPCs that I had met way earlier in the game and that I had agreed to do something for them. So when the quest told me to go and talk to someone, I was completely lost and I had to Google who they were. Turns out they lived 1 tile away from my house and I put them there, so that was probably my fault. I can appreciate a game that's well crafted and doesn't just say screw it, the player can just Google it if they get stuck. At Ark Survival Evolved in Valheim, I swear those games would not exist without fan-made wikis. This leads us nicely into the RPG mechanics of the game, specifically the questlines. Above Snakes features a fully fleshed out questline, with some minor choices and consequences. It's definitely not Mass Effect, but it's trying harder than Skyrim ever did. You'll meet a variety of characters who'll all give you quests, and items that are required to progress in the story and in your survival progression. For example, local dog owner Stark will give you a bowstring to make your first bow and a saw blade to make your sawmill crafting station if you help him out. This leads to the next character, which leads to the next and to the next. Pretty much linear. As I said, it's competent, but it's not Mass Effect. Now you might be wondering what exactly the questline in this game is about. And basically, Ayana lives in a Wild West inspired world where there is, to put it lightly, some very heavily inspired by real life events happening between some very much inspired by Native Americans and some very much inspired by American settlers. But the game primarily focuses on the famous meteor showers that were turning people into zombies during that time period. Zombies and skeletons are pretty much all the enemies in this game aside from a few animals. They come out in dangerous biomes and at nights, and you kill them with axes, bows and guns. Think Animal Crossing meets Don't Starve meets Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare. Ayana is here to go on a quest to stop the zombie plague by finding her way to Corpse Creek and collecting all of the mysterious shards so that she can unlock the ending of the game. Above Snakes also features the cardinal sin of an escort quest where you slowly corral some cows back to a farm at the speed of molasses. Really, Squareglade? In the year 2023, right in front of my mint fish bone slushy. Do yourself a favour, when the game gives you the cow quest, place the cow pen right next to the ranch and place the openings facing each other. This will take your quest time down from approximately 37 million hours to about 45 seconds, and it's a lot easier, so you're welcome for that. Aside from some lackluster quest design and the cardinal sin of a single escort quest, it does have a very addictive gameplay loop. So with all that in mind, how long did it take me to finish the game? Well, about 15 hours. For my first playthrough, but keep in mind that I took absolutely no prisoners here. I wasn't smelling any roses, I wasn't reading any of the dialogue. I completed this game, and the only character whose name I bothered to even read was Stark. That's because he had a cool dog, and he was the first human I met. But that's a me issue, I just don't read or listen to anything in games. I was elected to lead, not to read, and I wasn't even elected. I violently took power in a coup in the year 1987. I could have made that playthrough last like 20 to 25 hours if I had the time or patience to read through all the dialogue. I'm sure the devs put a lot of effort into it. I'm so bad that I didn't even realise the game wasn't fully voice acted until like 10 hours in. I'm not even kidding, I was just on a mission to experience all of the mechanics and quests the game had so that I could make this video. Before moving on to my finishing thoughts, I do want to talk about something objectively bad about this game, and it's not something you can just ignore like one escort quest. The combat in this game is pretty weak. You swing your axe, you fire your gun, you dodge roll. That is it. There are 5 enemy types: punchy guy, spitty guy, shooty guy, explodey guy, and throwing explodey guy, and absolutely all of them you will just pepper with shots from far away. If there's a polar bear, you just run back a few steps, fire a couple of shots, run back a few steps. Repeat that until one of you is dead. For a zombie, you dodge roll away, you run back up, you swing your axe. All pretty basic, all kind of clunky. Everything else you just shoot until it falls over. I didn't die in combat once in this game. Bees came the closest to killing me, so if anything needs to be drastically improved in this game, I would say is the combat. It's very simple and clunky with the way the camera works. And one very important positive thing I should mention before my closing thoughts is this. Dear viewer, I played this game for 15 hours over the weekend, and it did not even crash once. So right off the bat, for being a survival game that isn't built to scam you out of your money and mental bandwidth for 10 years, that runs relatively well and doesn't crash constantly, this may be the best survival game to release in a very long time for that alone. And of course, since it has a very simple art style, it's not particularly heavy on your system, so most systems should be able to run it. Unfortunately, the game has no multiplayer right now, but there's no way they're not going to change that. They have to add it eventually. Oh, and it's not out on console yet, but it seems like they're planning to do that at some point. So, my closing thoughts. Did I enjoy this game? Yes, definitely. I'm going in for my second playthrough already. Should you buy this game? Well, if you like what you saw in this video, there won't be any nasty surprises. Some people just aren't gonna like the perspective of this game. A lot of people only play first person or the more conventional camera over the shoulder third person games. And that's fine, this game won't be for you then. But aside from that, the lackluster combat and lack of multiplayer really does hurt this game in my opinion. But if those two things in particular don't bother you, it is a really fun survival RPG experience. It's currently $25 and you could easily get 25 hours of fun out of it, even if you only play it once, which I would say is a solid ratio. As I said, I'm 15 hours in and I'm going in for my second playthrough because I messed up a lot of stuff on my first run. I could see myself and other people definitely putting in a couple of hundred hours into this game, which would be excellent value for money. If that's too much for you, then get it on sale. I'm sure you can find it much cheaper during one of the many Steam sales later down the road. I hope you found this video helpful in deciding if the game suits you. No, regular viewers, I'm not becoming a games reviewer. I just really like this game and I know it definitely wasn't the most well-known game ever, so I'm covering it on the channel to get some more eyes on it. Expect to see some content on this game coming in the future for sure. Thank you to my channel members and patrons for making this video possible, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.